Dastardly Duos kicked off yesterday, and just like any other WoW feature, it launched with some bugs. So we're going to get into what exactly happened, what's going on with it. But before we do, let's talk about this announcement. The Dastardly Duos Creator Clash coming June 7th. That's right, a clash between some of the greatest creators, or should I say some of the most talented creators. Now, no, I'm not talking about myself, although I would be included in that category, of course. I'm talking about members of both Liquid and what the hell's their other Echo? Yeah, members of Liquid and Echo, of course. Some of the best players around, dastardly duoing it out in the new arena. So Blizzard's launching a little event here on Twitch and YouTube where we will get to watch these two squads basically square off and try to get the highest score in the tournament. So this thing will kick off on June 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. This will be, again, on Twitch and YouTube. There will be some cool stuff to watch about it. They're going to do a whole event with it, broadcast it, and we'll get to see who, in fact, finishes on top with the Dastardly Duos. Now, talking about Dastardly Duos, it's a bit broken. There's a few broken things going on here. We're going to get into some of this. First of all, the time gates. Yeah, just another feature that has time gating within time gating. It's kind of sad, but yeah, it seems to be the new way Blizzard's doing things. Here's the thing. This week, the only thing you can get is the Dastardly Banners toy. So, you know, you do a Dastardly Duo, you get the Dastardly prize purse. Every week, you're going to get that quest to do that. This week, the only thing you can get in that purse is the banner. So if you were thinking you might get lucky, get the new stage or something else, that's not going to happen just yet. These items are, in fact, time-gated. Week 2, possibly the most interesting one aside from the mount, yes, the winner's podium. So you'll be able to get a chance at getting the winner's podium to summon and stand on top of, you know, with your best buds and everything, showing off your highest scores. I want to get it again for our transmog competition, so I'm going to make sure I do that. Week 3, aside from the reward unlock, in the third week, players will be able to use the horn to call them some extra bosses, so the full event itself won't really be unlocked until week 3, when you can finally summon 10 bosses all at once. That is the true, basically, the true end game of Dastardly Duos. The reward for this will be the mean ball bag. This is that little ball toy that we saw recently. And then finally, week 4, final edition, is probably the most coveted one. Yes, the mount. The albino, I don't know what you want to call this, mecha turtle mount. It's cool. I like it. I just, you know, the time gating, look, I guess there's some positives to it in that it kind of stops people from being degenerates. It also allows people like Greg from accounting who don't have all the time in the world to play this game to kind of play it at their own pace and not feel like they're falling behind. But still, I mean, launching a time-gated event in a time-gated fashion just feels like it's a bit much, but it is what it is. Dastardly Duos itself, it launched, it's working, but there's some broken features. One of that is the scaling. So if you didn't know this, Dastardly Duos are supposed to scale your item level to 619, no matter where you are. So if you're below 619, it's supposed to bring you up to that item level. If you're above 619, it's supposed to bring you down to that item level. Well, evidently for some people, the scaling was happening so hard that they were being scaled down to item level 1. That's right, you can see in this screenshot, their item level is now 1. Now, this is not just an item level thing, but in fact, it was affecting their stats as well. They were basically getting a 1 armor from some of their pieces of armor as intended, yeah. So it's freaking hilarious. This is probably what happened to me. You guys remember that one time that I died yesterday? I think this is what the problem was, most likely. I probably didn't even notice I went in with 1 armor and survived for a good amount of time, but at the end of the day, the immortal man that is Samiccus, the best blood DK in all of, WoW, was unable to survive with 1 armor. So, I'll chalk my 1 death up to that. Besides that, yeah, if you're experiencing this, there really isn't a fix right now other than trying to maybe unequip, like, your t-shirt. If you're wearing a t-shirt or something, like on item level 1 cosmetic gear, you might want to take that off. It might be fucking up the scaling. But for a lot of people, this isn't really fixable yet. Until Blizzard hotfixes this, some people are just eternally stuck at item level 1 and unable to play Dastardly Duos right now. Besides that, you know, being nerfed into the ground, what about being buffed through the freaking sky or stratosphere? This guy, Hyper Yeen, had his tier set buffed all the way to 1.5 or 3.4 million spell damage. That's right. Read this right here. You guys, when you are hit, this is the 4-piece set bonus. When you are hit with melee attacks, you have a chance to gain 3.4 million spell power. That's right, 3.4 million spell power. The intended effect is supposed to be 100 spell power on this piece of armor. So it's a 4-set bonus that from a previous set, so it's not available anyways. Like this set is not something that you can equip anymore. It's not something you can get the bonus for, but Still hilarious. Still the fact that the stats were there. If this actually happens to an armor piece that's actually active and can give you the buff, I would love to see somebody with 3.4 million spell power all of a sudden nuke everything in the arena. That would be freaking hilarious. This one's not as bad as the previous issue with the 1 armor because it's not going to really affect you in any way. You can still run in and do Dastardly duos. They will fix the problem. They will nerf it in August again. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I think they need a hotfix for that item level issue, though, because that makes it completely unplayable. Moving on from Dastardly duos, talking a little bit about Mythic Plus standings, where everyone currently is at in terms of DPS, healing, and tanking, and how it's all looking. Right now, there's not much change in terms of the dungeons. The dungeons themselves, completion rates, and everything else, this is probably the most evenly spread season we've ever seen in the game. I mean, look, from the top to the bottom, we see Rookery is still the most run, and then top is still the least run. But overall, I mean, what is it, like a 1%, 2% difference between these? I mean, we're talking about 85% of the 85% run completion rate here, and then 84. It's barely anything for Theater of Pain. So the movement up and down, not much change in terms of completion rates. There hasn't been many nerfs or buffs to any of this stuff. So again, still looking fine. This season's still looking good. But where does your class currently sit? Well, here are the charts, boys. So let's get straight into this. There's a lot to get into. I'll move myself just down here before we talk about that stuff. Here we go. Not much movement in terms of who's on top, who's on bottom. We do see Outlaw Rogue has moved into the S tier since the recent buffs for Mythic Plus. So I'm talking about the recent class rebalancing that occurred not too long ago, about 2 weeks ago. So Outlaw Rogue is now considered an S tier, moving up 3 spots. We see Ass Rogue also moving up, Feral Druid also moving up here. So your current right now, basically your top 10. Let's go through them. Unholy DK, Outlaw Rogue, Balanced Druid, Retribution Paladin, Ass Rogue, Feral Druid, Arcane Mage, Destro Warlock, Marksmanship Hunter, and Devastation Evoker, rounding out your top 10. Devastation up 2 spots there, so that's pretty good for them. Looking down at the bottom here, Fire Mage down 2 spots, sitting at the very bottom, followed by Augmentation Evoker, who was displaced by Fire Mage just by a bit and got to move up 1 spot from the F tier here. Survival Hunter, Shadow Priest, and Furry Warriors, being the furries that they are, deserve to be an F tier. So there they are, currently sitting at the bottom. Besides that, you got everyone mixed in the middle. Really, we saw a lot of changes. Sub-Titty Rogue, we saw, had huge changes in their raiding stance, right? Their ability to raid and create some big DPS numbers. That turned out to be a bit of a bug. Blizzard's kind of fixed it on the back end, so we don't see as much movement here from Sub-Titty, but it's always good to see titties moving nonetheless. So looking right here at tanks, right? Let's check out the tanking stance because there is some movement here. So we saw Brewmaster and Protection Paladin move up 2 spots. Now, remember, this is DPS, not viability. Vengeance Demon Hunter has moved down 2 spots here in terms of DPS, but they are still considered the meta tank right now for Mythic Plus, and that's just because, you know, the way they just fucking move around, their utility, their ability to just grab aggro, do the things they do. It's also probably going to be the best one-button tank because it's also the easiest freaking tank to play in the game. Nobody come at me. Blood DK is harder, and everybody knows it. So looking at these charts here, Blood DK not doing too bad, A tier. Prot Warriors, actually S tier. It's considered to be the worst tank right now, and it's sitting at S tier in terms of damage output. Average damage 1.8 million, not too bad. Now, one thing I will say about Vengeance Demon Hunter, though, and where it currently stands, look at the number of runs for Vengeance Demon Hunter on this chart compared to everybody else. 2.5k compared to the next highest, Guardian Druid, 474 runs. So the data is probably skewed for Vengeance Demon Hunter, and that a lot of people are running, they're trying it. They're trying out the meta tank right now, so the data's probably skewed for Vengeance Demon Hunter. It's probably actually better than it currently sits right now in terms of damage output, but just the amount of people that are trying to do Vengeance Demon Hunter has kind of skewed the data there. Looking down at healers, currently not much movement at all. We still see Mistweaver sitting there at S tier, Preservation Evoker sitting at A, Holy Paladin sitting at B, Restoration C, Holy Priest sitting at D, and then Restoration and Discipline Priest sitting at F tier. Now again, Discipline Priest is considered to be your meta healer, but look at the number of runs, 2.1k for Discipline Priest. That is a ton of runs compared to your next highest, 1.3k, and then below that, after Restoration Shaman, the drop-off from there, 266 runs for Mistweaver Monk. So those two clearly, most likely getting skewed a little bit by the number of runs they're running compared to everybody else. But still, interesting numbers nonetheless. We'll keep checking these out as the expansion continues on. We probably won't see much more movement until Season 2, but if we do, I'll report on it. And that is all in terms of news.